Peace, peace, peace. Welcome everyone to another edition of Poems and Passion. And yes, my name is JaSUN. I'm so proud to be here. I'm glad to be here today, man. We're gonna have an awesome show, man. We got this cat, man. He's really awesome, man. He's gonna be our feature today, Faraji, Salim. And yes, we are gonna have a good time. I was already chopping it up with the brother, and yo, the vibe is right. So say no more. But first, I must tell you, I must open up with a poem. It'd be only right. This is Poems and Passion. So here we go. My freedom got choked, smoked like we do hope in the hood. Now hold it in till you good. No, lock it in your lungs like jail where brothers read more books than Yale. Puff, puff past this ghetto gospel. See, our apostles are in hell's hostel. Our future pastors are in the projects like hood rats in a government science project, chasing cheddar in a maze of project hallways, where our philosophers are in prison, just like the Vatican archives godly wisdom. Tell, lie, vision, commercials attack. I got ghetto gravity pulling me back, back, back to sipping that yak and slipping through the cracks like Jack, cracking corn on corners with cracks like kryptonite. See, one of his fiends took a hit and slipped into his kryptonite. And just like Satan got cast into hell, little Jack got expelled, suspended the sidewalks, from a black boy to a black boy outlined in chalk. See, Jack's grandma sold drugs, his father died, mother gets high, brother doing life, and all Jack knows is popping pills like he's on Pluto. See, his uncle was from Venus, he shot Hope intravenous, he died watching a black and white zenith stroking his penis. See, society's circumcision is called prison. And it's industrial and complex as our complexions, as directions, as classism, as a class, his ass just never seen the past, so puff puff past this ghetto gospel apostle. See, I used to smoke hope like the Pope, praying over ashes with dark sunglasses at Congress Avenue morning masses with ghetto fabulous fascists trying to escape our misery. My country, 'tis of thee. You painted God green, sweet land of liberty on the backs of blacks. But we still chasing greenbacks because slavery hasn't been abolished, it's just been polished. And I've seen dreams deferred and pounds of reefer. And I've seen blood run through the cracks in the corner where little Jack Horner slipped into his kryptonite. At 16 years old, this can't be life. But in the hood, we hide love under hoods like stolen goods. We are blood diamonds kidnapped in this reality that just chain reacts. So rappers get rapped and trappers get trapped. How you gonna trap inside a bigger trap? Because once you take a life, you don't get yours back, and you can't wash it down with straight shots of yak. Angels don't trust dust, and purple hazes the facts, and they put kryptonite in crack so that our Superman get choked while smoking hope in the hood. He held it in till he was good and dead. In his head was a whole universe, just minus the stars, because his life was in prison, just minus the bars. Peace, peace, peace. Peace. Always got to do a poem, man. Something to break the ice, man, because that's how we get down here at Poems and Passion, man. But yo, it is so not about me today. Yo, we got a heavy hitter, man. Like I've seen some of his footage, man. He killed Def Jam. First of all, he killed Def Jam. And he killed a lot of stages all across America, man. So yo, without further ado, man, I'd like to present to y'all, man. Get ready, man. This brother, man, Faraji Salim, man. He's just coming back again to the scene, man. So show him some love, give him some virtual hugs and all that, man. Say what's up to the people, Faraji.
What's up? What's up? How y'all doing, Jason? What's up, D-Mus? How y'all doing, family over at Poems and Passion?
Yo, man, we blessed, man, and we definitely blessed to have you, man. I hope everyone, yo, I'm not gonna like, kill it, big it up too much, but I really liked your stuff from what I saw, man. So Just want to thank you, man. Thank you for coming back because you've been on hiatus. Am I correct?
Well, I'm coming back for Poems and Passion. I'm still on hiatus. I haven't really
Ooh.
poetry thing for a while, but I'm still, an artist at heart. I'm still a fan, and who knows what 2021, will bring, But yeah, I'm definitely happy to sit down and chop it up with poets about poetry, and and definitely be a part of this wonderful show that really speaks to the fans and gives poets an opportunity to talk.
Yes, yes, no doubt. I think we might have a little technical difficulty, but nonetheless, man, I'm sure Faraji's coming right back. He's coming right back. I see him popping back in on the screen. So here he is, y'all. Sorry, Faraji, we got cut off, but we're back.
Connection issue. So, but I'll make sure I stay on and pop in and out in case I pop back out. But no, I was saying it's a pleasure and an honor to be here to just to chop it up about poetry, man, for sure.
Word, word, man. Man, we're definitely glad to have you, man. So, like, for the people that don't know you, for the cats that never heard you, and some of our audience, we're just exposing the poetry again. Can you tell me a little bit in depth about yourself, who you are, and what you do?
Sure. Well, I'm a spoken word artist. As far as in this world that we're talking about here, I'm a spoken word artist that came on the scene in the late '90s. From I'm considered by most people that's in the art a New Eurekan poet. I got my start at the New Eurekan Poets Cafe. So peace to Miguel Algarin, who just passed away, who's the founder of the New Eurekan Poets Cafe. I found myself mostly known in the slam poetry community because that's where I started out as a slam poet. So definitely big in the slam world is what I've been, really.
Right, right. So I know he's been big in the slam poet. As a slam poet, that's how he got linked up to Def Jam. He's coming right back again. Just forgive us, but here he is. He's coming back in right now.
Guys, yeah, horrible connection today. That's just Murphy's law of all things. But as I was saying, New Eureka Poets Cafe. I was on the New Eureka National Slam team, and I was also one of the founding slam masters in my home city of Newark, New Jersey. That's kind of like the precursor to my career. Most people after that, they know me obviously as one of the original cast members from Russell Simmons' Def Poetry on HBO. Proud to be a part of that show. Won a Peabody Award as a result of that. And, did a couple of spoken word albums at the turn of the century. It was crazy to say turn of the century, like 2000, 2000, whatever. But yeah, it was the turn of the century. And then I kind of faded to black off the poetry scene. In fact, ironically, one of the last major
Yes, yes. Yeah, yes. Speaking of fading to black, but we coming right back. I'm sure he's plugging right back in, man. Sometimes this technology, gets us a little bit, but here he is. He's back. He's back.
Yeah, after this, I'm gonna go ahead and switch to a different virtual private network. I kind of keep my stuff private, so that's probably what it is. My VPN is acting up today. But I was gonna say one of the last major events I did when I was still on the scene before I stopped was in Springfield. Man, that was up. D Mars brought me up, and my partner at the time, the great Talam Macy. I'm pretty sure a lot of y'all know Talam Macy. We have a strong history together. We started in the game together. Was on couple of national teams together, and we had a group called Inner God for a while. But one of the last major events I did, D Moss had brought me up for it, as a matter of fact. So Springfield is kind of where I did the last big show of my career, probably.
Wow.
Definitely.
Wow, wow, that's huge, man. So, listen, man, would you mind blessing the people with a little sample piece, man, with a piece, just to so they can really get familiar with your work?
I'm gonna try to do a little something. I haven't done anything in a while. I was trying to rehearse a piece. So you forgive me if I stumble over it in my old age, but I'll try to give a little something to see what we got here. And hopefully the
Hey,
technical difficulties don't act up on it.
right, right. And if so, we'll make up for it. We'll make up for it. I see D. He's in the background with his hands up, like, yes, a piece from Faraji. Yes.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So let me do this before the internet try to be the devil on me. So here we go.
All right.
Um, hmm, what piece am I gonna do? All right. And there he stood about 5 foot nothing. Reminded me of my man Mikkel. You know, my little cousin, little dude was bugging, pants half sagging, shoulders shrugging, had a permanent man-child grill upon his face. Like no matter what anybody was about to say to him, his automatic response was gonna be, "You got a problem with me, nigga? What's up?" Couldn't have been no more than 12. See, that's the number of completion, but he was completely on the road to compete with either the grave or the jail cell. Ghetto bastard, so 9 moons and 12 years before society had already said another nigga born, oh well, nobody ever even tried to hit the story he'd tell. In the darkness of these days, when his entire generation has lost their way, you will still find it. In the stench of a putrid waste he calls existence, when honor amongst his friends is met with a stone cold resistance, is when you will also see the divine sign that the game is just about to begin. It's at that very moment that you will also be able to smell it as the rigor mortis sets in. For him, there will be no heavenly choir of grandmother angels waiting at the end of an eternal light. Only fire and brimstone brewing for a soul from the womb was whisked into a whirling dervish of confusion, doomed to consume by it. Do you know where you are? You in the jungle, baby. You gonna die. But tell me I ain't gonna save somebody's life tonight. I dare you to tell me that I ain't gonna save somebody's life tonight, like a neo Jesus from New Jerusalem. My daily disciples got deeply calluses and bruises. See, they got COVID crosses to bear, but they be iced out and adorned on them pseudo platinum bodega chains that they wear. A conundrum of a young money brother that still got to borrow some money from his mother. A little wannabe no limit soldier that don't know the limits to what he can show. That if he just simply tried to live and not merely survive, see, he's living on borrowed time that's nearing its end. Only for the prayers of his ancestors, his only wish for him to survive and win. See, he can't be trusted. He can't be trusted, only disgusted. See, he's too busy crossing over stolen turnstiles and stolen Yeezys, my friend, only crossing over to my past so that I might inform him that life is nothing but a series of do-overs and try again. See, he didn't need me to call him a fuck up. He needed me to call him a friend. He didn't need me to give him this Movado wrist watch around my wrist, but he needed to give him a fraction of my time to read between us and the world, and a couple of moments of my time to teach him how to properly read that shit. See, he was me 12 years before he was even thought of. He is me shoplifting out of neighborhood bodegas, but tell me I ain't gonna save somebody's life tonight a day to tell me that I ain't gonna save somebody's life tonight. That's an abridged version of it right there, y'all. So it's been a minute since I did it. I'm surprised I remembered that much.
Word. Yo, I really dug that, bro. I
I
really
appreciate
dug that, man. Yo, do
shout
you
out
want?
to shout out to D the schizophrenic. We wrote a an anthology off of that piece. And had a couple of poets write different versions of that concept. Tell me I ain't gonna save somebody's life tonight. So it's always been a special piece. But thank you for indulging me. I'm gonna try to remember that whole thing now once I get offline, because I swear that's the first time I spit it in a decade.
Wow. Yo, I know how that is too. You know what I mean? Like just coming back and stuff, man. So we really appreciate that. Yo, yo, I really like the first of all, your delivery is off the chain and the cadence and all that. But like the truth that I felt that was in the piece, you know what I mean, is what kind of grabbed me, man. And like the sincerity and the way you're kind of swag too. You know what your swag reminded me of?
What's that, bro?
Like the late great Robin Harris, like what he did for the comedy world. You know
Yeah, I
what I mean?
love Rob. I rest his soul, man. That was that's an icon right there. So and to even be considered any swag stealing from him, that's a blessing, man. I take that as a supreme compliment. Test
Give
tube, baby.
thanks.
You test tube, baby.
Yeah. But you know how his swag in the comedy world, it just came off like his was just like so much more real. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
man.
Like when you said something and he did a skit, like you just felt that. Like it was like crazy, you know? So that's what made me think of like Robin Harris to the comedy world, you to the poetry world.
Well, I appreciate that, man. And for somebody to just see me do something like that, I wouldn't be surprised if other people might have would have said the same thing during my heyday. At the time, I was always a cocky, braggadocious poet, but that just came from just the nature of the world of slam poetry. Slam poetry is art and competition. So we always, as much as we love the art and we were purists, we always definitely had a one-upsmanship. I always used to count it as akin to how the jazz cats were in the 50s, man, where they would still have a mutual respect for each other, but they would get on the stage and they would go back and forth with their improvs. And I think the poetry slam community was that way too. So we always had a little braggadocious vibe to us, but it was always a mutual respect for still sharpening steel. So yeah, definitely. Thank you for that, brother.
Word, word. I like that analogy too, man. You know, like, and sometimes we do get so caught up on like the artist of it. Now I consider myself more of a poet than a slam artist or a spoken word artist. You know,
Definitely.
but that's just me. You know, um, but like, what do you feel the difference is between a poet and a spoken word artist?
Well, there's three stages to it. As I've always put it, there's the page, there's the stage, and then there's the studio. And you can write something for the page, and that's really just the most purest form of poetry. It's meant to be read. It's not meant to be delivered in any other way other than you just reading it and maybe just internalizing it, reading it silently. And then there's the stage, and that's where you take something that's meant specifically to be delivered in a performance, atmosphere. And so that piece may rely on other things other than just the actual words, but the performance aspect of it, the inference of it, the double entendres, the pregnant pauses, things of that nature. That's where the stage comes into play. And then there's the studio, where a lot of us are actually recording, our spoken word in the form of albums and audiobooks. And then it's just a matter of then taking everything from the page and the stage and presenting it in a concise manner that, that the audience is going to be listening to it repetitiously because it's designed to be recorded. So it's planned to be listened to more than once. The stage is something oftentimes that you're just giving that performance that one time, and every time you give it, it might be different. Whereas the recording, you want something that's going to stand the test of time. So
Mm,
I think those are the difference. And oftentimes you don't necessarily have to be the greatest writer to be the greatest performance artist. And obviously there are a lot of people who have written work over the years that never really relied upon being performance artists. Especially a lot of artists, from the Black arts movement in particular. I used to talk with Nikki Giovanni and Sonia Sanchez about how they had to, really make that adjustment in the 90s when people wanted to start seeing them perform the work that they had written in anthologies in the late 60s and the 70s, and how they had to breathe new life into it as performances as opposed to just leaving the book out for people to read it. So I think that's the difference, and where we are today with poetry. Performance art is just, in my opinion, another form of monologues, if you will. Oftentimes, there's not any, set rhyme pattern to what people are doing. It's a lot personality driven. There's a lot more comedic and dramatic elements that are put into it. I think you fare better today being a performance artist, more being having a thespian background than even having a literary background,
mm.
because people are coming to see you perform. So oftentimes I think the work now is secondary as far as the poetry aspect of it. And that's not a jab at anybody today, but I definitely feel like no one wants to see, an academic just kind of read their poems. They want to see a performance today more than ever.
Word. I dig that though, man. I feel like that's like pretty honest, man. You know, I could dig that. That was an awesome the way you broke that down, man. And I could dig that because I got the visual examples of the stage, the paper. You know, that was dope.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah. I mean, it's funny because like, I think when you ask about the difference of slam poetry, I think that's what slam poetry definitely brought into the world of performance poetry. It definitely brought us a sense of theatrics to it. I mean, and it also brought a sense of urgency to it in relation to cadence wise, because slam poetry is so time oriented. It's 3 minutes and 20 seconds that you have to deliver your piece in it. I think that started affecting people's cadences. I know it always had an impact on me. I've always been considered, a speed poet, if you will, as far as just the way I flow. That's why I oftentimes love not doing slam poetry events, because then I could slow my cadence down, do different pieces. But I think that's why you have even the certain, cadence that poets rhyme off of, because that was an influence of slam poetry over the last 20 years, and just the theatrical element of it. I think a lot of that you have to give to slam poetry, and it even bleeds into, because even back in my day, you had poets that considered themselves to be, bona fide slam poets. You have poets that was like, I'm not into that slam thing. And then you had poets such as myself that was a hybrid. I would flow between the slam poetry world and the non-slam poetry world. But all in all, I think the last 20 years, the styles have been affected by slam poets, really giving a certain flavor to spoken word across the board.
mm.
We all know Saul Williams. We all know Sarah Jones. We all, Mums the Schemer. We all know those iconic poets, Taylor Molly, Bosia, and those poets definitely are slam poets, but, they've also transcended Lisa Jesse Peterson, all of those poets that even fall into the genre of being playwrights and one-man artists. And we all know the Talam Acey, all of those poets have a slam pedigree, whether they're slamming or not now at this stage of their careers or not, they all definitely were schooled in the gladiator school of slam poetry.
Mm, mm. And so, being that you're a true vet, some people consider me a vet, and I consider you a vet because, like, you were doing this back in the '90s, all and up. What's the best advice you have for the up and coming poet or someone that plays the slam or spoken word artist that's just starting to get their pen wet?
Study. Study. I mean, it's so easy to study now because you have the internet, which is great about Google. I mean, you could go back now. If you never heard of the Last Poets, if you never heard of Gil Scott Heron, if you never heard of Rita Dove, if you never heard of any of those cats, you could go back now and all you got to do is open up a YouTube window, put the Last Poets in, man, and you're gonna catch the Last Poets album. You're gonna catch This Is Madness. You're gonna catch Gil Scott Heron's Winning America. They there. Listen to them. You're gonna be able to go back and even look at archive footage of Def Poetry, which is now, maybe 15, 20 years in the can, and you could watch, everybody that was of my genre performing in real time at that stage. You can go back, even if you're not familiar with County Color, and if you're not familiar with Zora Neale Hurston, and you're not familiar with Langston Hughes, you can always go on YouTube, and somebody's doing a rendition of their pieces that are there. You can go back and watch, biographies of who these individuals are. I think it's important that, poets understand that, they're not the first person to pick up a pen today, and there's, an entire history of the art, and it doesn't just, go just with Black arts. It transcends, like, go listen to Allen Ginsberg and understand who Robert Frost was, understand who all of these great, artists that have contributed to the art form across the board are, and study, because I think a lot of times we're so caught up on what we're doing. But there's nothing new under the sun. And if you go back and look and see what others have done beforehand, you will definitely be a much more appreciative and a humble artist. And you never know, you might be able to find something that you like that you can put your own spin on that somebody else did before. I know a lot of us, in the '90s, in the 2000s, we were carbon copies of the Amiri Barakas and the Last Poets. We just put a different flavor on it, So D Knowledge, rest his soul too. Even to this day, man, it was that I heard somebody in the background on that one. But
man.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. So D, I spent 3 years with D Knowledge.
Yeah, that's my man. God rest his soul. I mean, one of the greatest, things about D Knowledge is this. Like, I remember when D Knowledge dropped the McDonald's commercial in the '90s, man. We thought that we all thought we was gonna get checks when that happened. It was like, yeah, commercialization of it. I was one of those cats that did have a problem with that. But even to this day, you can still hear D Knowledge in the cadence and the flow of poets, and they probably don't even know where it came from. They don't know whenever they go up on a note and they start talking like this. The person that did that was D Knowledge. They don't understand that but you can go back and watch, John Singleton, and you can see one of the greatest performances of D Knowledge doing that. Higher learning. Higher learning. That's D Knowledge, but you don't know that if you don't know that. You know what I'm saying? So that's the thing. It's like, so I say study, and be a student of the craft. That's the best thing I'll give you. What you write on the page is just going to be your voice, and that's your voice, and that's great. That's your contribution to the ethos. But if you don't understand what came before you, then how can you really know what makes you different, what differentiates you from everything that came before? See, I know what makes me different because I know what came before me.
Word. Yo, crazy insightful, man. I love that, man. I definitely love to shout out to D Knowledge too. But it's so right, man. Kind of what I was gonna ask you was, just to big up my man D Knowledge real quick, man. He lived in New Haven for 3 years, and I was able to spend that time with him, man. He hosted the open mic at the Blues Cafe and stuff like that, man. But for Faraji, okay. He's coming right back with us. I see him. He's backstage on the waiting room, so he'll be right back in a second, man. He just brought back some serious memories for me. But also, it's important, like he said, to study. It's important, and he said, put your own little flavor on top of it. You know what I mean? Because you got to be you. One thing I can say about him is that I've never heard his cadence before. A lot of spoken word artists get boxed into like a certain few sets of cadences, but one thing I've always tried to be original, man. I've always tried to be unique, man, because I come from the era of hip hop when you had to be original. You could in hip hop you couldn't the rappers you couldn't come out like another rapper and sound like him. Like Karis once said, you had to have style and learn to be original. And then he said, and everyone's gonna want to diss you. But that's that. Faraji, you back with us? Okay. So he's coming back. Oh, he's back now. I think he's back now. No. Okay. So we're working on that. We're gonna get him right back here, man. Um, I appreciate the realness and everything he was saying. He really gave us a dope frame. He said it. For those that want to be poets coming up, like there's a whole framework for us. Yeah, is he back?
No, he's not back yet. He's still dealing with technical difficulties. So
Okay.
he'll be back on with us as soon as he gets it right. But I'm digging what you were saying. I figured I'd just jump in the conversation while we're waiting for Faraji. I know back about 20-something years ago, going down to Jimmy's Uptown, sweet spot down in Harlem, and running into Faraji, man, his style was always unique. He has his own deliberate flow. And, we have cats who incorporate song into their poetry, not realizing where a lot of that came from. Faraji was doing that, oh, Lord, way back. He had this one joint called, was it Wade in the Water? It was something. When he comes back, we got to ask him. But unbelievable find. When you talk about some of the greats when it comes down to spoken word, before people started sounding like Taylor Molly and the rest of the Chicago style poets.
Exactly.
Everybody was sounding like either Queen Sheba, Talam AC, or they were sounding like, my brother right here, Faraji Salim. We had mad cats who tried to emulate his style. Faraji would be in the middle of a hardcore dope poem, and then he'll bust out into song, and it's like, yo, that is just dope. You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Everybody couldn't do that. So it's like, yo, I fell in love with that dude's vibe. Then, we end up making that DNA contract. He became my brother for life. His poetry is ridiculous. But not only the poetry, but if he wanted, he probably, he's back with us.
He's back.
Faraj actually could have made a music CD with just songs and just singing. Because when you talk about that real dope blend of thespian, poet, spoken word, song, he kind of added all those elements. And if I had to frame him up, I'd probably say he was like a one-man band, the way he would utilize his vocals and the sounds he would make, in the way, even the wordplay. It's like you take
cats. He was called spoken soul back then.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Dope, man. It's like he would combine all the elements in terms of his vocal exercise. His flow, it'd be like pop, 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 pop. Then he'll slow down. Then he'll break into song. Then it's like pow. It's almost like a one-man band on poetry on the stage. And I tell you, at the time, I was a super fan because I thought he was probably the dopest. At the time, I was doing poetryjoint.com for Raji. And I had this dude listed.
Listen, I got to talk about that, man. I got to talk. See, one of the great things about D Moss, man, and why he's so relevant, not just to what goes on. I know this is going out in Springfield, but D's his rep is definitely sealed in our genre, man. Is D was one of the first cats in the country, man, dare I say the world, that was really open to blending everything that he just talked about. So a cat like me, he created the Willy Wonka chocolate factory for us to be able to be a poet, but he always, had the spoken soul vibe, and all the events that he would do, and he was really pushing the envelope. Everything he was doing in the city of Springfield, just different festivals and different events and ciphers. It always had a musical element, and both of them were respected, because a lot of times, if you go into like a musical vibe, the poet is the afterthought, and if you go into the poetry vibe, the music is just ambiance.
Right. Right.
And it was never that. I always understood and was a futurist and saw that the
Oh, I think we're losing you, bro.
Yeah.
All right, I think we're losing Faraji.
well, you know,
Yeah. 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 But I
Faraji,
gotta say,
definitely
I
was.
definitely remember those venues he was talking about. I definitely remember those venues he was talking about, man. And you did it big. Is he back or no? Is that no? Okay.
yeah, he'll be back.
Yeah. Oh, he's back.
No, he'll be back. He just
Okay.
corrected the situation.
All right. Yeah, man. But going back in the days, man, you did some awesome events. You're still doing awesome events, and I can't wait till we get back to in person, man. For those that don't know, man, we'll definitely be bringing a string of events from New Haven to through Springfield, man. And I'm just glad, he's just coming back. I'm glad to just be coming
Right.
back. You know?
With Faraji, I think we kind of forced him into a comeback because he was minding his own business until we're like, yo, we got this show. I need you to come on it. And he's so dope. It's like, I think a lot of them young poets, I think they need to see if I think that's what was important about bringing cats like
I'm here.
Faraji.
Can you?
Yep, we can hear you now. Can you hear us? Faraj?
Yeah.
I think we his connections. He's working on his connection for all the folks who are watching. Yeah, it's important to have cats like Faraji around because people need to know, about how can I say? Oh, here we go. He's back. Yeah,
Yes,
people need to hear the Farajis of the world to understand that from a spoken word perspective, it's kind of like it's cool to do your own thing and you can rock the stage and be you. It's like venue. When you go to venues now here, everybody sounds damn. My mother went down to the street and it's like everybody sounds like that. You go to slams and it's just like, yo, I'm bored. Don't make me a judge. Before I'm like, when you're a judge at the slam, it's kind of like you're listening for the word, the content. I need to hear that beginning, the middle, the end of the poem. I want to hear the story. Pull me in. Yo, I want to feel your energy, man. I want to hear that wordplay. I want to hear you flipping things around for me to make me want to rewind and be like, yo,
Yeah,
Jay,
what was that? Yo, I've never heard that put like that before. Whatever it is.
Yo, did he just say that? That's
Yeah.
like the poem that he did about the 12-year-old kid. It's like, yo, I remember hearing that way back at Jimmy's Uptown. I was like, yo, I wanted to meet the kid's family and give him a hug.
See, and that's what I'm talking about, man.
Yeah.
Something, give me something you can feel. Give me something I can feel, man.
Right.
And that's where I identify with poetry, man. A lot of cats, some people, that know me personally, they're surprised I do poetry. When I tell them, but I'm like, listen, man, poetry for me has been a lifesaver, man. And it introduced me to a lot of positivity where I didn't have none.
Right.
Here
we go.
Yeah.
Faraji, you back?
Hey, son, by the way, your beard game is strong, bro. I just gotta give you your props for that. Your beard game is strong.
You talking to Dale or me?
Yeah,
you.
The beard game is strong, man. I the beard game.
Yo, thank you, man. Yo, I just started working on this, man.
Yeah, man, you looking like a vet with it, man. I'm just telling you. That's the look for you. That's run with that, man. You got a winner right there. That's looking good on you, man. There you go. There you go.
Word. I appreciate that. Hey, we just got a comment that popped up from my man Halisi Moyo, man. He said that a favorite one of your poems was the one with the song, with the poem, the Psalm 1914 as the lead in.
Oh man, let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in my sight, oh Lord, my strength and my redeemer. Yeah. That's meditation. Shout out, Halim. Appreciate that, brother. Thank you for the shout out on that, man. Blessings that you remember that.
Yo.
Not only did he remember that, but when you just said it, I've heard other poets spit that.
Yeah, man. In
And the
fact,
crazy thing, I never heard you, but I know I've heard. Wow.
I'm gonna let you know right now. That's the original. The other one, I think you did the Star Spangled Banner. Oh, say, can you see? And then you bust
yeah,
into.
that's you. Yeah, you can catch that one on Deaf Poetry. That's out there on YouTube. That was one of the pieces I did. I think my first or second season of Deaf Poetry. That was one of them that was featured on there. Yeah,
Yeah, he had.
definitely. In fact, JaSUN, what I'll do is that that track it's called Meditations, man. It was on my I'll make sure I send that out to you, man. So if you ever want to play it on the show or whatever, it's yeah, I love that piece, man. I definitely love that piece.
Word, that's dope. That's dope,
Memories.
man. That's dope, man. I appreciate that, man, because we're just trying to grow this show and get it bigger, man. And you know, what I mean, with good energy like yours, bro, you know, it's definitely growing, man.
Hey
We
man,
were
if you
just
invite me
picking.
back, I'll do my homework and I'll make sure I know it. And, you know, if I ever get an invite back, I'll make sure I study up on it and I'll do it for you live, bro. Because you know I'm part of the Pose and Passion family now, so I will definitely do my homework and dust off the crates and you know get back in the fighting stance. You know, if Mike Tyson can come back, then you know Roy Jones Jr. I guess I could do the same thing too. Get back into that poetry gym and make sure I'm in fighting condition for you next time for sure.
No, absolutely. So
I'm
dare I
cracking D up
ask?
over there. I see
So,
it.
so yeah, yeah, he's cracking up. But dare I ask, what can we expect coming from you? Is there anything? I mean, are you really, you know, dusting off the gloves and getting back in the ring, or are you planning on doing anything?
Well, I'll tell you like this. It is so funny, man, because all these stories are kind of going back to D Moss. I remember, like I said, that last show I did with D Moss and Talam AC was there. I don't know if you remember this, D, but I had just started my company, Edison XD. You know, I have a technology conglomerate that I started in about 2005, and you know, we've been in business now for about 15 years. And I remember Talam. You know, one of the first things we started out doing was internet radio, and we always were kind of like leaders in internet radio early on. And I remember Talam was he was kind of joking with me on the stage. He's like, "Yeah, man, I don't know what Faraji Salim's doing now. He's starting companies and doing stuff like that." But I say that to you, Jason, to say that you know I've always considered myself to be an advocate for the art form, and I think at this stage, before I do anything. As far as artistry coming back, you know, there's plenty of great voices out there. They don't need mine out there anymore. But what I would think I want to do, because I was talking with a great poet friend of mine this week, and I did another show this week, which is crazy because you know, both of you guys hit me up this week to do two shows. I was just like, wow, this must be a sign from God that I need to start maybe getting back involved in some capacity. But I was talking with Dita Schizophrenic, who's a great poet out of Jersey, and I was telling him the same thing. I said I always had been an advocate as far as the genre of spoken word. I became a member of the Recording Academy, the National Academy of Recording Arts and Sciences, over 20 years ago because I was focused on the spoken word category. There is an actual category of Grammy Awards that are given out every year for best spoken word artists. The funny thing about it is, you know, there's three categories for best spoken word, and then there's best spoken word comedy album. Then there's best spoken word children. So obviously we know that you know the spoken word children's albums go to a lot of those children audio albums that people listen to, and then the spoken word comedy album, everything from Chris Rock, Tiffany Haddish is up for best spoken word comedy album this year. But the best spoken word album category tends to go to a lot of audiobooks. The publishing industry has kind of taken over that category, and 20 years ago was a time that a lot of us were really starting to put out a lot of great content as far as album CDs. And that's when I really wanted to get involved and say, hey, what do poets have to do to be able to qualify for Grammy nominations? And the thing that I learned then was you had to become a member. And so I had, at the time it was just six commercially released tracks that needed to qualify. So I encourage any. Back then, we really had to release them like through CD Baby or a store. If you just have six that you put out on the internet, the rules have been relaxed so much. If you have
All right, I
track
think we're about to.
that you out as a spoken word artist, I encourage you to join the.
Yes. Wow, wow. It's crazy because he's dropping so much information and knowledge at the same time, and I'm dying to ask him another question because, he talked about like the wave of fire poets that was starting to come in the late 90s and stuff. And are you with me, Faraji? Okay. You with me?
I'm with you. Can you hear me? Yeah, I'm here, right here
Yeah,
with you.
yeah. So you got cut off. I didn't know if you wanted to continue.
I'm with you, brother.
Yeah.
I'm with. So yeah, I was just about joining joining recording academy and really start that.
Yeah, we're losing you. We're losing you. We're losing you. But I want to pose a question to the audience, all those that are watching, all those that are in the spoken word community, the poetry community, you know, is this a lost art form? I don't think it is. It's never been a lost art form because poetry has been around since the griots and everything else. But I definitely like, we have to be the wave. We have to be the voices. We have to speak, you know what I mean, our truths and let that penetrate into the world, man. He was talking about possibly winning Grammys and stuff. And that's deep, but this is a cat that's like really been heavy on the scene. So like, you gotta respect it, man. And he's dropping some pure jewels, man. I see his screen is popping, face is popping back up in the background. So he hopefully he'll be coming right back with us, man. If not, man, I'm here. Um, you know, and I'm gonna do a quick piece, I guess. You know, I was a black boy in a white world with a young mother who was a white girl. I want you to cram to understand my chocolate and vanilla swirls. Now tiptoe through my ghetto guns, play heavy metal, hip hop chicks and stiletto, staccato, ghetto jazz. I'm a ghetto Picasso. I paint what little I have until you get the picture. In the ghetto scriptures, ghetto blues, ghetto kids with no shoes, callous feet, callous streets. The hydrant was our beach as ice cream jeans melt in the stream down the street. See, I'll never forget those days. Now, that's just a little brief, but it's kind of an example of what he was talking about when he was talking about, do your homework, study up on poets and spoken word artists before you and draw on yours because that piece was particularly inspired by Bob Bino. It's my piece, but he's someone that I spent time with and that influenced me a little bit. And, so I just kind of had his energy in mind, but I wrote the piece myself. You back with us, Faraji?
Yeah, I'm here, and I want to apologize to the audience. This is my holiday weekend, so I'm not anywhere near civilization. I'm actually in a place called Mount Charleston. I live in Las Vegas, and so I'm up in the mountains for the holiday. We're trying to have a little Hallmark Christmas vibe, and so the internet is kind of sketchy up here in the mountains where I'm at. So, but this is the first of many. You had me at hello, Jason. So I'm gonna definitely be part of your cipher in 2021, and I'll make sure that we do the shows in an area where I got great internet connect. But this is charged to the holiday weekend. Seeing the holiday festivities going on that we're just kind of off the grid right now, myself and the family.
No doubt, no doubt. Yeah, well, listen, man, I'm glad to have you, man. Your vibe is definitely right. You got me from hello too, so that's a beautiful thing, man. It's nice to connect with you, bro. Um, I just want because you were touching on so much good stuff, bro. Like you are definitely a treasure trove of like experience. I'm not gonna say knowledge. I'm gonna say experience. on the scene, particularly on the spoken word scene. So we don't always get that too often. I want to ask you, right? You were talking about like the emergence of everyone in the late '90s and how it was really starting to take off, and then Def Jam started getting kind of in the mix and everything like that. Do you think poetry, spoken word artistry is on? You know, can it make a big comeback, or does it even need a comeback? Is
Um, that's a good question, Jay. I've always followed the history of spoken word, and the history of spoken
Yes, yes, yes. We gonna get this brother back, man. I apologize to the audience too. Again, he's way up in the mountains today, man. Doing this holiday thing, man, and that just made me want to touch on it, man. Like seriously, 2020 is almost gone, and we're going into 2021, y'all. And that's big for me, man, because we need a change, man. We need a change like we've never seen before. At least in my lifetime. I think right now, well, I've seen some rough stuff, but we definitely need change, man. Are you with us, baby?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, this what you're talking about with change, man. Everything that's going on with this year, I think this year was a change agent like a mug. Like 2020
Woo!
was a change agent like a mug. But to answer your question, I think poetry goes in ebbs and flows, and it's always been that way. Poetry is something that is you don't realize you need it until it's not there. Poetry is like oxygen. You know what I'm saying? It's like you just breathe it in, breathe it in, breathe it in till somebody suffocates you, then you realize how important oxygen is. And I think that's what poetry is, and it's always been that way. Poetry was really important in the '60s during the Black Arts movement. It really was the soundtrack to things like the Black Power movement and things of that nature. And then we got into the '70s, and poetry kind of had a good little vibe, and then it faded to black for a minute. It faded to black because hip hop kind of came in and dominated in the mid '80s into like the mid '90s, and then all of a sudden poetry came back in the '90s. Saying that it had a good little vibe, and then it reached its apex, in my opinion, in like the mid 2000s. By 2005 with Def Poetry and Verses and Flow and things of that nature, and then it kind of faded to black, and then we went through this era of decadence in hip hop, and all of the mumble rap and all these different things, and then social media came about. But then I think what happened is because of the advent of technology, spoken word has been able to kind of sustain itself in a good way, because what I've noticed, even though I haven't been on the scene, with social media and YouTube and things of that nature. Some of my favorite poets today, I believe that the greatest venue nowadays is social media. I mean, you're an example of that right now. The fact that we can have this show, we never had distribution channels like this before where we can talk and interview. We didn't have things like Spotify. We didn't have things like YouTube where you could distribute your work and have it get out there. I remember when Music Choice did Sundays when they started playing some spoken soul stuff. We thought we were going crazy when that happened back in the '90s because it was distribution. And now some of my favorite poets, I've never met them before. I've never seen them in a venue. I've seen them online. You know what I'm saying? I followed their work, and they've gone viral, and that's how I know them. I've never met them, but they're some of my favorite artists. And I think that the venue now is social media. The venue is YouTube. The venue is Facebook. The venue is MeWe. The venue is Parler. The venue is Rumble. All of the new social media platforms make it possible for the art to sustain itself. And right now, I believe the times are making the poets. What's going on in the world, everything from civil unrest and what happened this year, politics, this virus, all of these different things. Poets have to have something to write about. One of my favorite poets back in the day is somebody you might not have ever heard of. His name is Andre Salam, who's a great poet back in the day. And he faded to black off the scene for a couple of years. And I, called him up. I said, Andre, man, where you been? He's like, man, listen, I got to live life. I got to have something to write about. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times, poets don't have anything to write about, then there's really no need for poetry. And there is plenty to write about right now. You know what I'm saying? So this is the time that people need poets the most. So I think poetry, I think this is going to be a strong decade for poetry. I think the 2020s is going to be as strong of a decade for poetry as the 90s were in the 2000s. I think that, by the time we get to 2025, you're going to see poetry having a major impact. I think poetry has been in excellent hands since I kind of faded to black. I love, the young artists of, Gen Z. I think Gen Z poets are amazing. I think it's interesting to see a lot of my peers now considered like the OGs, of poetry. Like I look at people like Rob Hilton, man, out of Jersey. Shout out to Rob Hilton and Helena D. Lewis and Salam AC and D. Moss. Like we're like the eldest statesmen and women of poetry for this generation. And so, that's what's kind of cool, that fact that we're still around, because, a lot of us, are like what it was like with the hip hop generation. Like, we still got the LL Cool J's and we still got the Rakims around, because what are they in their like 50s or whatever? Because at the time they came out, the Will Smiths, they in their 50s. They were teenagers. They were in their 20s when they were doing it. So you put 20 years on them, all they are chronologically about 40 or 50. Most of us are still well within our 40s, early to mid 40s, early to mid 50s. Because when we were doing it 20 years ago, we were in our 20s and our 30s. So and I was a baby of the bunch. Like, and at the end of the day, which is crazy, I'm 45 now. But if you go back, I've been doing the poetry. Amiri Baraka put the pen in my hand when I was in high school at 89. I started going to the New Eurekan all through high school. I went to undergraduate at Howard University. So, by the time I hit in 97 on the scene, I was 22, but, people was acting like I was like 25, 30. So, in that sense, we're still young, what I'm saying? We're still around, but we have a depth of knowledge to consider to be OGs. So I think that you'll still have what's considered elder statesmen and elder stateswomen around for another 20, 30 years, because all will be, prayerfully, is going to be another 60, 70 in 20, 30 years. And then you got these cats now that's in their 20s, they're going to be, within their 40s or 50s. So the pipeline of poetry is strong, is going to be very, very strong. And I don't think it's going anywhere. And I think because poets now have more control over their distribution, and the fact that you can create a YouTube channel and build a following, the fact that you can go ahead and record much easier. We were hella innovative at the time that we recorded albums in the late 90s. Like the fact that you can get a CDR and burn CDs and be able to create an album, that was like hella innovative back in the day. And even then, we was happy to get the ability to record at home. That was the first dawn of that 20, 25 years ago. Now, I mean, you can record an entire album if you wanted to off a mobile app. It's crazy. And then you can upload it directly to Spotify. You know what I'm saying? It's ridiculous. It's all about distribution and being able to, cultivate and develop an audience. And I think the tools to do that technologically today are so, at easy disposal, that I think we're going to see probably the greatest decade of spoken word and performance art that we've ever seen in any of our lifetimes. I think that, this is going to be an amazing, a brave new world. And I'm looking forward to seeing what all the artists have, both old and new. I want to hear from some of my favorite older artists. I look at the Last Poets, man. I was just looking at Abiel Dune and talking with those cats, and they just got their new website up. And Dune has been famous for always having his Sunday sessions at his apartment, and he's taken that to social media now. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're doing something today which would be reminiscent to what we used to do, where we'd have to go all the way up to Harlem to Dune's house, play some basketball. He'll make some salmon cakes and potatoes, and now he's doing it virtually through Zooms. So, and that's one of the elder statesmen, Abiel Dune. I mean, you don't get any more poetry royalty than the Last Poets, and Abiel Dune and Umar Ben Hassan and Uncle Baba. And they're even, adjusting to technology,
Right.
and so I think that, things are I'm very optimistic right now. I think, and I do believe that we have some great intellectual and artistic minds that have a lot to say. I will caution one thing, and I brought this up in an interview that I did earlier this week, is if I had to come out and be a poet today fresh, I'd this stuff. I'd be a little nervous because I became culture. Yeah, I'm still here. Good. I was saying cancel culture. I think, we had always been free to say what we wanted to do to be as expressive as possible. And because we live in such a cancel culture now, I think a lot of times poets are really concerned and leery about what subjects they're going to write because they don't want to get canceled. I believe that half my catalog would have got me canceled with one poem. Somebody would have heard it. It would have went viral. They were like, we don't like what he's saying. I might have offended the women. I might have offended the Me Too movement. I might have offended the LGBTQ community. I might have offended, somebody that's, politically, and those things could have got me canceled, back in the day. And I think today one of the things that artists have to do is still be bold, speak truth to power. And we have to support artists too, even the artists that we don't agree with. They might be putting something out that we don't necessarily agree with their message. But as a collective, as an artist collective, we got to say, man, you got to let them speak their piece. We can't just hear something and we don't like it and cancel it. That's my biggest fear, is that cancel culture is going to affect the liberty that artists have today. And artists just have to be bold. I mean, you just have to be like, this is how I feel. This is the piece. And you also have to have artistic license, because also, we have to remember sometimes an artist, is speaking not from their own personal experience, but they're just, really just being, a vicarious vessel. J. Cole is good for that. You know what I'm saying? If you listen to a J. Cole album, he talk about stuff in first person that's not even him. It might be his man's story, but he's telling it to you in an artistic license way that is giving it to you in first person. So, you still have to give artists the freedom to be able to even do that, to be vessels. Otherwise, we will, cancel out artists before they even start for fear of being canceled. So cancel culture is something we have to be really mindful of as we move forward. That's just something that I'm really seeing as a possibility that could, stifle a lot of artists. So even as we are fans, we have to be tolerant to let artists be artists. If there's something out that you don't like, just respect the fact that they're sharing their voice, you know what I'm saying? And just go listen to the artist that's representing what you like. But we have to not allow cancel culture to really permeate into the collective, because then we're going to really shortchange ourselves with some great artists and some great artistry.
Word, word. Word, yo, that's like big, man. When I first started writing, that's one of I was amongst a group of poets, and we used to do writing sessions. And one thing, like when we were all together, it was like, yo, one of the first things I learned is everyone has something to say, and don't cancel the next man out. Listen to it. What Jules, you don't even know why that man wrote that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Ask him, find out. So I appreciate that, man.
Absolutely.
We appreciate the poetry forecast, Mr. Faraji. And
Hey man, anything I could offer that says, like I said, I just want us to be mindful of that and just live our best greatness, because the tools are here, the audience is here, the talent is here. It's like, we're a winning team right now. We got all the pieces as far as the collective. We got the voices, we got the talent, we got the technology, we got the distribution. So we should definitely be out here really promoting the art. And we can't worry about the venues right now either. The venues will come back. All of that stuff will come back. The live venues and stuff, that's going to come back, because that's essential to the art. And, we didn't have the D Monsters out there doing what he did over the years to create those venues for us. Venues are important, but right now the venues, for the most part, until things get back to normal or whatever the new normal is going to be, the venue is here. You know what I'm saying? The fact that we created an avenue and a platform for me and you. I'm 2,500 miles away from you guys out here in Nevada, but I'm able to still talk with you guys. We got a little technology problems, but other than that, the technology was here for us to chop it up today. So as long as we take full advantage of that, the artist community, we'll still be getting poems with passion. You like how I did that?
I love how you did that, brother. we gotta get you on the plug for the commercial,
Oh yeah, no doubt. I'll do a sticker for you, no problem.
Hey man, that was big facts though, man. Everything you kicked was very informative, very I like you took us today from way back all the way to now to even to the future, man. And we appreciate that, man. That's a wealth of knowledge and experience right there, man. So I hope everyone caught that, man.
Brick City, Newark, New Jersey. Please give it up for Faraji Salim.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light? Light from the early dawn's fire that lit up the sky in downtown New York City. Kindling being the twisted metal and the helter-skelter of the artist formerly known as the WTC. Never knew that a builder could be assassinated like President Kennedy, or that of a ghetto resident wordsmith like Pac or Biggie. But in one instance, we surely did see what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, come tumbling down to the ground on martyrs and heroes to become forever known as the heart of Ground Zero. Who broad stripes and bright stars. Yeah, the stars of Hollywood came out to sing our money out of our pockets so that we could sit at home passively and pledge away our sorrows on our American Express cards. That same American Express whose headquarters got blown up by 2 American airliner jets now. Welcome to the Terror Dome. Through the perilous fight. Fight who? Al-Qaeda and Bin Laden, or the ghost of America's forefathers? Because it ain't been nothing but a bunch of dead presidents that done got us in this mess anyway, done passed away, and left their dirt for us, the children of the next generation, to face. Or the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. Y'all should have been screening Newark International Airport a little bit better anyway. Meanwhile, I can't even sneak an ounce of chronic in my boot while traveling from San Francisco to Newark on TWA. And the rock is rattling, the bombs bursting in air. Still have not found Osama bin Laden nowhere, even though Saddam Hussein is locked up scared as hell. Gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. 3 years later, I don't see none flying nowhere. Oh, say, does that star strangled banner wave o'er the land of the free? We're giving out free Cipro to any U.S. Armed Force soldiers, sisters, and bros who feel that they might get anthrax exposed. And the home of the slave.
Yo,
Okay.
fire,
I'm sorry,
fire.
Jay. I had to intrude on your show, man. Listen, I was looking all night to find that one. I had to get it on before he exited. Did it?
Well, I was getting ready to ask him to spit, but it was perfect timing. Perfect timing.
Hey, that was better than me spitting, man. That was perfect, dude. Thank you, man. I had a big Kool-Aid smile on my face watching that, man. I ain't seen it in a minute. But I lost a few pounds since then too, so that's good.
Yo, bro, that right there is a classic, man. And so it's interesting, Jay. I'm gonna take it back. I'm in the background. I'm not coming on. That's my brother from way back. Can't come, but I got to come on. When you asked about, whether or not he feels the need to come back, although you may think not, I think the creativity, when you talk about the substance of your poetry, I think it's needed now because some of the poetry have gotten so commercialized and is so full of fluff. Cats used to say something. And as me and Jay was saying, while you're dealing with technical difficulties, man, there's a whole lot of people, young and old, who are longing for that poem where you go, yo, what did he just say? You know when the crowd go crazy and you had to repeat a line?
Yeah.
That type of shit doesn't really happen anymore.
It's funny, D, you say that, man, and I agree with you so much that I almost feel guilty because I always tell people, as we just got finished watching a clip, from, Deaf Poetry, and I love Deaf Poetry. Like I said, I won a Peabody Award with Stan Lathan and Russell Simmons and Danny Simmons and Deborah Pointer and Most Def. Shout out to all those cats. And I feel like Deaf Poetry was a blessing and a curse.
Absolutely.
Seeing at the same time. I believe that it was something that we needed to take us to the next level, but I also believe that it created a cliche, a caricature of spoken word. And then, even with Brave New Voices that followed after that, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Brave New Voices, but it's pretty much basically, the teen version of Deaf Poetry. It created an entire generation of poets that were just kind of like factory produced. And we lost a lot of that. And I'm glad that there is some distance. The funny thing was Deaf Poetry was going to come back a couple of years ago. We had, I was talking with Russell and Danny Simmons, and they had already tapped a new host. Chance the Rapper was supposed to be the new host to replace Most Def. And it would have been interesting to see what happened. Things kind of got thrown off at that time because it was during the Me Too movement. You know what I'm saying? So, a lot of stuff kind of got thrown off because of Russell's name and HBO. And I guess one, disassociated. Shout out to Russell wherever he's at in the world right now too. But I always wonder how much Deaf Poetry had an adverse effect on what you're talking about right there, D, where, because, cats were just kind of in their own bubbles. Like, there was different styles. Like, my favorite poets are Ainsley Burroughs to this day. I'm one of the biggest Ainsley Burroughs fans. The Twin Poets, I love the Twin Poets. Those are my brothers. But everybody would be in their own little ciphers. You know what I'm saying? There was the Springfield sound. There was the
Yeah.
Jersey sound. There was the Brooklyn sound. There was the Toronto sound with Dwayne Morgan, and there was the Oakland sound. And everybody were in their bubble, so you had to just create your own style, and then you would see those styles when people came in. But when you put it on TV, the way it was with Deaf Poetry, everybody was like, "Oh, I guess this is the style that I got to go with." So you're right. And I hope that we start to see some more diversity and creativity come with it. Who knows what I'm gonna do with poetry, man? I always, in my mind, I have this fantasy that I'm gonna do another album. I'm gonna do it live from the Las Vegas Strip or something like that. Nobody's ever done an album for the Las Vegas Strip, kind of doing it the same way that
Wow.
Richard Pryor and them done it. Saying live from Las Vegas, Faraji Salim, live from the Bellagio, so something like that. So you never. And if I did it, in my mind, I would do it kind of Rat Pack style. The tuxedo with the band behind me and everything. I would. So that's
Okay.
yeah. So that's always
Okay.
been my fantasy comeback. So you never know. It might be another
Just make sure
coming out of retirement.
if you
Well,
do
you're
that,
out there.
give us
You're
some
out there
notice.
already.
Give a brother some notice so
Notice,
we can get down to Vegas. I want
notice,
some
nah.
notice.
I need you, D. I need you to be the Harry Lennox of it, man. I need you to put, you clean up so well. You put that tux on, man. I need that golden voice. Ladies and gentlemen, live from the Las Vegas Strip. I
Yeah,
need D Moss to come out and do that. You know what I'm saying? The hostess with the mostest. You know who you are. So that goes without saying. We're gonna do it on your schedule if it ever get done.
I'm ready. I'm here for it, bro. I'm here for it.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Yes, sir. I got to tie that back in before we get out there. Listen, I'm just saying, D Moss for mayor. By the way, D Moss for mayor, Springfield. I was
D-Moss
talking
the
about you,
man.
D. D. I was talking about you, man. I was talking about you. I don't know if you were you might not remember him, but he remembers you. Do you remember Alex Dixon? Alex Dixon was one of the executives over at
Yeah,
MGM Springfield. That's my
yeah,
brother from Howard, and he's
yeah,
from Vegas. And we were talking about. I was like, yeah, man, D Moss, and he was saying just how valuable you were in relation to bringing community development to make sure that those jobs were going to people in the Springfield
yeah.
market.
We did some work with
Your
him.
reputation precedes you, brother. Yeah, Alex, I was just talking to Alex about you the other day, about a week or two ago, man. So listen, man,
Wow. Good.
I,
He
I
good people, man. Good
yeah,
people.
good. Yeah, we like I said, he's a little younger than me, but we both, Howard alum, and he's out here in Vegas. He's from Vegas. He's back out here with his family now.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were just talking about that Springfield Connect, and I was talking to him about you, and he had nothing but fond things to say about you, man. So if anything, I'm just gonna say I'm part of the draft D Moss movement for mayor of Springfield. You know what I'm saying? I'm just with everybody else, brother. I think that the way things went down to me is that's not the end. That's just the first chapter of a great novel that's going to end up with you, doing some amazing things. That city needs somebody like you at the helm of it, brother. So, I know that's not what we're supposed to be talking about here, but I'm gonna throw it in there anyway. You know,
Hey, true story. Hey, brothers, I just want to interject real quick. We're well past the hour mark, but I have an engagement. I got to be on this open road poetry thing. So I'm gonna have to check off right now.
All right.
Um,
It's your
Well,
D,
show.
listen, it was a pleasure, man. I mean, I'm glad I was able to go over, give you a couple of extra minutes from the time I was breaking in, breaking out, and everything.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
listen, anytime you guys want to do this again, man, next year, I'm more than happy to do it. Jason, we family now, man. You know what I'm saying? I put you in the same category as my big bro D over here. So, anything
Okay.
you need on or offline, man, don't hesitate to reach out to me. And congratulations on this wonderful platform that you developed, man. And consider me also a fan now because I will be watching vicariously for all your other shows coming up, man. So you might see me in the chat rooms too. But I'm definitely supporting what you're doing, man. And D, you already know, brother, I love you. There's nothing you can do about it. You just got to deal with it. And same thing applies to you, Jason. Love you, brother.
Yo,
And
love you too, bro, man. You got wonderful, brilliant energy, man. It was a pleasure, man.
oh, the honor is all mine, man. So thanks, and shout out to all of the folks that's watching Poems and Passion with Jason. This is great, man. And keep supporting this movement that this brother's got going on here, and I'll do the same. So this is Faraji Salim, and I'm out.